Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be having a look at another one of these crazy Japanese decks featuring cards that nobody said was actually going to win and be successful, that is once again challenging people's expectations and proving to be good. Once again, the list has been provided by the lovely Code64 over on Twitter, and although this was another Japanese League Cup, essentially, this had a larger than average attendance. So we're talking about a larger, more competitive tournament than average, and yet a deck which is super weird and then goes and wins. And it's all based around Rayquaza. Now, Rayquaza's not exactly some new thing that's come out of nowhere. We've all been playing with Rayquaza for a while now. It's a big, bulky, basic GX. It does 30 damage for each basic grass or basic lightning on the field for a grass lightning colorless. None of this is new. We know Rayquaza. We used to be playing speed decks with Max Elixir Roundabout Worlds. More recently, outside of Japan, it's being played with Vikavolt. Well, now it's being played as a new list. Okay, so Rayquaza's our main attacker here. But how does it actually work? Well, here it's basically built around using Morgana. It's not only Morgana, but Morgana's one of the main things we're using here. These are the Battle Chatelaine ladies I told you about that I suggested could be quite good but awkward to play, and the general consensus from most people was, they look fun but they'll never work. Turns out they will, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Morgana's the more interesting of them all. In order to play it, you have to have one Dana, one Evelyn, and one Nita in your hand, and you have to discard all three of them to play Morgana. But then you look at the top 12 cards of your deck and attach as many energy cards as you find there to your Pokemon in any way that you like. Every energy card you hit represents an extra 30 damage for Rayquaza. Every free energy you hit here represents a Rayquaza that already has enough energy to go about attacking. And this really is a deck which is largely built around trying to fire off with Morgana and get the advantages here. Now, we do play the other three Battle Chatelaine ladies. They're not as good, but they have their uses. Dana can only be used if your opponent's active as a stage 2. Search for any 2 decks and put them in your hand. This is phenomenal, but only when there's a stage 2 in the active. Evelyn can only be used if your opponent has a stage 1 in the active. You draw 4 cards. That's really good draw power. Nita can only be used if your opponent's active is a basic, and you shuffle an energy from their active into their deck. I've done videos on all of these cards. I'll pop links to those in the description. These are not phenomenal cards. They're not going to see a huge amount of play. Even in this deck, they're really there to try and feed Morgana. But the point is here that they feed Morgana. And if you can get a good Morgana off during the game, then you'll probably win. I said Morgana because I've been playing a lot of Persona 5 recently. I do, of course, mean Morgan, but the card's been up on the screen. You know what I mean. So Morgan's our main way here where we're actually getting the energy on. That's our goal. But we do have a couple of other Pokemon that we can use here. We're playing 4 Tapu Lele GX. Well, of course we're playing 4 Tapu Lele GX. You need to get supporter cards in hand. Tapu Lele lets you search for a supporter. I would think that's a given. And we're also playing Virizion GX. Now, Virizion here, as far as I can tell at least, is primarily here for the first attack. 1 colorless energy, draw 2 cards. That's it. Now, that's not to say that you can't use the other attacks. 2 grass energy, you do 130 if you've played a supporter card, and certainly if you're against a Pokemon like Lycanroc, which is weak to grass, this is a decent little attack, but it's not really what we're using it for. Similarly, 1 colorless energy, pick up as many Pokemon you like and put them into your hand. I mean, you can use this to clear your bench of Tapu Lele, maybe. But it's not really what we're going for. And even in terms of double draw here, it's a nice little attack. But let's not sleep on Rayquaza's GX attack. Discard your hand and draw 10 cards. And in a format we're in at the moment where the best hand disruption is stuff like Judge and Marshadow, there's a decent chance here that if you play this and draw what you want, you'll actually be able to use it next turn and not be disrupted. We then see a couple of, at least in the UK, Europe, US, etc., unreleased Prism Star Pokemon. Both of which I like very much indeed, both of which I've done a video on, link in the description. Now, the absolute no-brainer here is Tapu Koko. Tapu Koko is phenomenal. You put it on the bench, and then you pop it in the Lost Zone, and you attach 1 lightning energy from your discard pile to each of 2 benched Pokemon. It gets 2 extra energy on the field. For Rayquaza, that's an extra 60 damage. In a deck like this, it's an absolute phenomenal no-brainer. You've got to use it. And in a lot of decks, Shaman wouldn't be so good, but in this deck, Shaman Prism Star is phenomenal. 2 grass energy, bearing in mind you're playing grass. This attack does 30 damage times the number of energy attached to all of your Pokemon in play. I know, right? It's Rayquaza's attack, but for 1 fewer energy. And remember, Morgan doesn't end your turn here. So what you can do is, if you hit Morgan and you've got enough energy, just start swinging with Shaman Prism Star. And if they KO Shaman, you've still got your Rayquaza ready to go. And if they try and take out your Rayquaza, you've still got Shaman ready to go. This is a deck that relies on having a whole bunch of energy on the field, and it can go wrong. But if you get all your energy here, you're just going to win the game. And there's not really much your opponent can do about it. And I know at the moment there's a whole bunch of non-GX attackers running around like Buzzwole and Shining Lugia, but the reality is that if you get your Rayquaza and Shaman going fast enough, your opponent is just not going to be able to keep up with you, even with non-GX attackers. If we look at the energy line here, there's a lot of energy in this deck. By my count, we got 10 basic grass and 10 basic lightning. That means that 1/3 of your deck is basic energy, which means if you're drawing 12 cards, you should be hitting 4 energy. Now, of course, time you start playing stuff like Ultra Ball and discarding cards from your hand, and then searching and taking Pokemon out of your deck, you're actually going to swing the ratios in your favor. But initially, you should be hitting 4. In reality, you'll often actually hit more than that. That's redonk. So that's the basics of the deck, and there's a few more supporter cards and all here to help us. Though not too many, you are playing 20 energy. We're playing a couple of Steven's Resolve here. Steven's Resolve is especially good turn 1. Remember, you can use Tapu Lele to search it out. And it lets you search for any free cards but end your turn. Again, we're not playing much hand disruption at the moment, so that means that if you use this, you search for 3 of the Battle Chatelaine ladies. If you've got the other one in your hand, or you can find it next turn, or you can find a Tapu Lele to search for it, etc., then you've got all 4, and Morgan's going to work. The other draw supporter we see here is Lily. And the reason we see Lily, it's the best draw supporter we've got at the moment. You can't play something like Cynthia in this deck because Cynthia shuffles your hand into your deck. You don't want to shuffle your hand into your deck. You want to draw cards so you can collect all 4 supporters. That, ladies and gentlemen, is where this comes in. Obviously here we see a couple copies of Guzma. Guzma picks Pokemon off the bench, brings them in the active, you try and KO them, etc. Guzma's pretty much a staple in every deck. And then the rest of it, there's not too much to it. There's a full set of Ultra Ball and a full set of Mysterious Treasure. Ultra Ball searches for any of your Pokemon, discarding 2 cards from your hand. We don't mind having energy in the discard, because Tapu Koko can get that energy back, which is okay. And then you've got Mysterious Treasure, which only searches for your Psychic or Dragon Pokemon. But that's your Tapu Lele and your Rayquaza. That's most of them. And then we see a rescue stretcher to get your Pokemon back, and an energy recycler to get your energy back. Energy recycler especially is a really interesting card. It shuffles 5 basic energy from your discard back into your deck, and if you can pull that off right before a Morgan, that's going to up your chances of hitting more energy off of a Morgan. Not only does it put 5 cards back in your deck, but they're all energy, which means that the ratio of energy to non-energy will actually be lowered. You'll have more energy comparatively, and that will be very nice indeed. This is a fun deck. It's not a deck that I would have taken very seriously, to be honest with you. But the fact that it's not only won a League Cup in Japan, but it's won a larger than average one, and it's our old friend Rayquaza, who we know is good, this seems like a very good deck. This seems like a very interesting deck. Also, check out the fact that they played 1 Rayquaza, 1 Full Art, 1 Rainbow Rare, and 1 Shiny. Seems a little bit blingy to me, but it also looks kind of cool. And if nothing else, we've got a new way to play Rayquaza, and we've got a deck which proves that the Battle Chatelaine ladies can work. And this set's been out in Japan for like a week. Like the second this set came out, someone was like, hey, I've already broken the Battle Chatelaine ladies. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this. Please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. But I would ask you to please remember the most important rule. Do be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get a bonus podcast every week and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do that. And do make sure that you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays. We just uploaded a video about the PlayStation Classic and what the lineup should have been. I think it's a lot of fun. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.